Okay. Hello. I'd like to welcome you to the Native Wellness Institute Power Hour. I haven't got my Get Your Well On Power Hour t-shirt. Um, My name is Lori NewBreast, and I am calling you from the beautiful Blackfeet Reservation in my recently set up little camp to do this Power Hour. So I'd just like to say a couple things as greetings to everybody watching. As I'm I'm just really grateful for the technology that lets us all connect in our camps, wherever we are today, wherever we've set up to really just connect during this hour to ourselves, to other people, to the people, our ancestors of the past, to the spirits, to everybody. And last week we were notified of the FedEx dude. So I just got a ding on my phone. Let me take care of that so it doesn't keep dinging all during the power hour with notifications. All right, just one quick second. Okay, there you go. And then you see my little, I covered my foam roller but I need it today. I've been doing a lot of um, um, forward hunching body movements. And so I just need that little support right now to keep in line. I also have a shoulder holster that helps my posture. Anyway, that's a whole other power hour. So today, I think, or I feel like when I was preparing, as I could feel since I got up this morning, luckily, I have one dog that is very sunrise sensitive, and so I usually let her out, and it's kind of coincided during the summer months as when Natusi or the sun is coming up. So I was privileged today to see that sunrise and really just to say hello, greet the day in a good way. And as the day has went on, the temperature and the winds have begun to both increase. And for those of you that live in sort of country where you don't have the wind, the jet stream or the winds coming through your land, that's where I live. So just a couple minutes ago, I had a door shut to one of the back rooms, excuse me, and underneath the door it was creating a whistle, and I thought to myself, well, that won't work for the power hour. So what I did today, and really what I'm going to share with you, whatever time zone you're in, we're all on the earth at the same time. I think that's really what is important right now. Is I started thinking about all the ways that, and I had a conversation with my sister-in-law earlier this morning about all the ways that had privilege really to have teachers, and I don't mean like US school system teachers, I mean like life teachers, people who teach you through their experience, through their wisdom, through whatever camp they learned in. Um, I've been really privileged in my life to have those people come in. So I was thinking about my teachers this morning, and the good thing about our way of life is we all got a direct line to the Creator. You don't. We can talk directly to the Creator. And I like to think of that as sacred equality, because as we go through this experience, and anytime you want to get into the chaotic stream of the general population, you can do it. Their volume, their tempo, and their tune really hasn't changed for a couple hundred years, or I guess since my ancestors knew them and since I've known them. But really what I'm going to talk about is the way that the lessons I've learned, the way I've been taught to prepare whatever way you make your camp. And I mean that in both a literal sense, like if you're camping now and you're joining the power hour, maybe your intention is, maybe you're privileged to have access to open land and you're going to go camp. There's always a process how we state our intention. You put out offerings, you put out just to the universe your intention when you're going to go make a camp. And I was thinking about my house specifically. So this morning I've been really kind of wanting to be intentional about what I share, and also to really give those good greetings to the space that you're living in. That's my, if you want to say, people use that English expression, pay it forward. And so I want to pay it forward, that I give those good greetings to the environment you're in right now, and that you are surrounded by that good air, those good intentions, those wonderful things in all of creation that we've been really privileged for our time on earth. And so I'm going to tell you some stories. And I was like, sometimes when I listen to mainstream media, I'm like, they're starting to think like Indians. I think that's a good thing. I don't know how they think about it, or feel about it, but I heard a broadcast where they're saying storytelling is the best way to communicate, and like it's a diplomatic gesture to tell a story. And so that's really what I'm going to do. So one time I was living in I've always lived in vibrant neighborhoods and surroundings, and I don't define them by their socioeconomic, designation, or social determinant of health, or any of those other, catchy phrases. But I always lived in a dynamic area. And so when I first would move somewhere, like in a man-made structure to a man-made house, I would always prepare that house with what I had been taught to clean it out, and to make sure that I give my intention not just to all the humans around, but really to that space on earth, that I was going to live there, that I was going to sleep there, that I was going to dream there. And so I've lived in different parts of the world. I was going to make some jokes about being let into countries, and I was really shocked that they'd let me in. But the good thing about port of entry is they can't read your thoughts yet. We're not there yet. So, but even when I traveled and I was going to stay somewhere that isn't my home, I would prepare that place because I was there for an intention. So, I've seen a lot of people post information about we're all here for a reason. And I think right now that reason needs to be put into action. So I'm just gonna, tell you some stories about um, when great change came to my people here, and that includes the people, the other members of the Blackfoot Confederacy up in Alberta, Canada, it's north, um, and into Saskatchewan. Change came to us like that. But we had already, earlier than that, before first contact, we had heard from our allies in other tribes, through our alliances, that there was great change. There was great change coming, and we had heard there's a famous story of back in history of we had heard about this majestic animal, and uh, it was Punica Imita, the horse. We already knew the horse because there was a horse here prior to contact. But there was a lot of other things we heard. We heard how they were bringing certain things to us. So some of our members journeyed, and they were gone about, what I've heard is about 7 years, and they went south, and they came back. They were able to return home with the news about what they had found. And all they brought back was a Spanish conquistador metal helmet. But they also brought back those teachings about a new animal, or an animal returning again in a new form, the horse. And so when they were traveling, there was things they did. So in that great historical journey that they made, so that they could prepare the people or bring the news to verify, to understand what was happening, they were given instructions of how to take care of themselves during that time, because they lived all that time sleeping, eating, staying safe. And so through time, our way of keeping our camps, it's also been changed, but it's remained the same. So I was talking with my mom earlier this week, and we were talking about how, I know everybody doesn't, not the first, you don't pick up the first thing in the morning a history book, but in 1883, when they started to say, they passed an administrative act. It was not a statutory act, but it began to have life, and they created the Indian Court of Crimes. And basically, your crime was living as yourself. That was your crime. Being an Indian, practicing ceremonies, practicing our way of life, um, upholding the agreements we have with the spiritual, the natural world, and with each other. And in there came a change of how we switched our camps. So until 1933, when they allowed dancing again, they figured, uh, they didn't understand, or, in their way, dancing was something you did recreationally. You did to the mathematical beat of their type of music. And but in our way, it meant something different. So in 1933, we were allowed again, or, without force of imprisonment um, or punishment, to bring our dances into the public again. And for my people, we had a celebration, and they called it North American Indian Days. And when the people came from all parts of the Blackfoot Reservation during that time to camp, we camped around that arbor that was kind of, in a way, sanctified by somebody else. We camped according to our band identification. So the Black Door Band the Bullshoe Band that are my lineages, when people came there and they set up their camp, they used our configuration of how we camped in bands. And so there was a preparation for when you erected a lodge. You know, there was an intention of, if you had a painted lodge, there was an intention behind that. There was a dream behind that. Some of our most ancient painted lodges, that design has been transferred down through history, and it belongs to everybody. But there are also, um, you know, if you want to say, lodges that are from personal dreams, from personal gifts from the Creator. And everything in that lodge had an origin. The buffalo robes, the fire, it's like the closest English word is like, it's like a pillow, but it was uh, a, a specific, like, soft resting cushion. That's how I describe it. And then there was the willow backrest. There was all the ways that the teepee liner, especially after the canvas teepee came in. But when people were putting up their camp, they did certain things. They ensured their dream time safety, their living hours safety, and they prepared that camp. So as we were put in square houses, as part of our experience, people would take over. They would take those same teachings and prepare their house to move in, or maybe they were having, they wanted to make sure what they were doing inside their house would go well, so they would prepare the outside for that intention. And really, right now, that's what we're doing. We're adapting again, because it isn't, in a way, if I want to say, it's time for us to come out of the house, but we also must ensure that when we are in our houses, we are safe. So there's been a lot of teachings from everybody. Everybody has teachings somewhere. If there's one Indian, there's some teachings going on. I don't care if you're, um, in Italy by yourself, or you're in Antarctica or somewhere, because that is our agreement as people use that English term, indigenous people or Niswitipi, as a real person. That's our agreement with the earth. The earth is our home. So there's a lot of medicine everywhere. And I don't mean pharmaceutical medicine or all the naughty hand sanitizer that's on the FDA ban list now. I mean the type of medicine that makes you a whole person. So it's everywhere. And so I want to share a story when I've had anyone who knows me, like, I'm not wealthy, or, no, not cash. I don't have a lot of cash. I don't have a lot of bing. I don't have no diamonds, no nothing. I don't even got a pair of Nike shoes. Okay, I'm just saying. So, but I've been privileged to live in different parts of the world. So through creative writing fellowship, I ended up living in this 16th century building in Italy below a castle. If somebody had told me, like, when I was a little girl, just trying to survive third grade or something, that I would be living below a castle, or, but anyway, I was living there. And so I had brought some stuff from home because I was going to be spending some time there. And one of the things I had brought from home is the river now that I'm living along. But at that time, where my dad had been living farther up, and where our original or ancestral allotments are, um, I had waited in the creek. And please don't put in the comments that it's creek. When you come to my home, please use the English language how we use it. So we say hot, hut. Anyway, so along the creek, I waited in there and I put out an offering, and I took some stones, some little stones, and I asked them to come with me on my journey to Italy, and because I didn't know what was going to happen there. Other than a few phrases that I learned from the Godfather or something, I really didn't know much Italian, and but I went anyway, you know. And when I went there, and they gave me this beautiful high ceiling, room to do my creative stuff, I made a space where I put the things from home that I knew I would need to stay grounded, to stay open to that experience, to not close myself off to the people that I would meet there, because I had been sent there. And I really felt like I needed to pay attention to my surroundings. So I put out my stuff and I put those rocks there. And I had a lot of experiences there that now I can see that I was meant to carry on those lessons or those teachings or to those encouragements, even to our young people, that right now, maybe your dream was to, I don't know, go to Madagascar and pick Riobo's tea. I don't know. And now you may feel that some of those dreams have to be to travel the world or to explore, that they might have to be shelved. And I would say, I don't think so. I don't feel that. So I want to encourage you that I've traveled. This is the most I haven't left my home area, and since I was 18, so decades. And those times will come again. But right now, there's some type of synergy happening with the online communities that you may start to join. And that's right now, that's a thing I think we need to pay attention to as Indigenous people, as you're making those connections around the world. So someday when you make your camp somewhere in the world that you dream of going, I want to say to you, make your camp intentionally. Bring those things with you from home, those things that keep you grounded. And so, I didn't own that home. It was temporary, but I set up. And when I would have, you get homesick. Even like for your scratchy relatives, you get homesick, you know, and um, and then they weren't big beef eaters. I'm just saying, from my speaking from my experience, that was probably one of my toughest moments. But what they did is they offered, these people had opened up their home, and they had had a very vibrant life themselves. They were older, and one of them had worked for the UN, and he had traveled extensively in the Americas. And they were showing me all these things from their travels that they had brought home. And they had this bowl, and if you can imagine, it looked like a big bean, a big dried bean. But it was beautiful. It was polished. It was decorative. The paint still existed in that bowl, the design. And then inside was very smooth, and it had some coating on it. And, they didn't know what that coating was, but I used to, every time I go by that bowl in their house, I used to put my hand in there. I used to just put my hand in there. And I'd go visit that bowl because they also had antiquities from around Europe, but they had a lot of stuff from from the Americas where they had traveled, as you know, in their profession. So one night I had a dream in that room, and it was like a waking dream, and there appeared this little girl, and I could see her clothes, but where she was sitting in the room I had was where I had put those rocks from home. She was sitting right next to them. And I seen that there were other things in that dream, but I seen her. And I instantly knew, even in the dream, that she was connected to that bowl. She was connected to that bean-shaped bowl. And because she was dark, and she, you know, she looked like a little Indian girl. And so when I woke up the next morning, I went down to that bowl and I picked it up, and I instantly knew that it was a water carrier because of how it was shaped. We dip the water and you're able to carry it without it lapping out. And so I instantly knew that's the gift from that dream, that was a water bottle, that was a water carrier, it was a water bowl. And so I was all excited, and you know, the sponsors of the fellowship, they were non-indigenous, and so, you know, at breakfast I told them that's a water bowl, because they had always thought it was an exhibit of, or an example of primitive people's art. Oh, it's so primitive, it's novel. I didn't mean to change my voice right then, but it's a little. And so when I was all excited and I told them, it's a water bowl, and you use it like this, you know, you dip the water and then you're able to carry it. And I'll make a joke. They turned quite pale, you know, and then they were quiet for a minute, and then they told me that in their family, once they had brought that bowl home, often people would awaken and they would see a little girl, a little dark girl, washing her face. And so I thought, well, yeah, I just told you it's a water bowl, you know. So I kept up that feeling good about my dream and just said, oh, they have a different experience with it. So I took out to the countryside that I was privileged to live around at that time, and I made, I asked the ancestors, my ancestors, to please help that little girl return home, because her spirit was over there and it didn't belong there, or she wanted to go home. That's the feeling I got from the dream. So I went out, I made the offering, and then I was like, okay, there. So I had all these beautiful experiences. I went to the Medici Palace. I've seen the David so many times, I can't tell you. I went to the Vatican Museum. I spent New Year's on the Amalfi Coast in Italy, in Positano. I drove 100 miles an hour on the Autostrada. Still, you know, and they get these little cars that are like little, if those of you who've driven a go-kart, they're little cars. They have a huge, strong engine, and you're just like, standard shift, but so I had all these great experiences. But once I did that, once I went out and acknowledged the importance of my dream, and having traveled all that way to be introduced to that vessel that carried water from a people I am not a part of, a people that I don't know. Soon as I did that for that little child, the little child spirit, overwhelmingly, that was my purpose for going there. Yes, I worked on my creative writing. Yes, I had beautiful experiences. Yes, I bought some of the best shoes I've ever had in my life. Um, but and learned to love espresso. Yes, I did all those things. But to me, it will always be that those rocks I bring from home to keep me grounded was where that dream child appeared to me, sitting next to them. And so in my travels, I would always intentionally take care of the place I slept. And then, I know out there in cyber online, there's a lot of Indians that, your livelihood or maybe your vacation from the res was at conferences, um, and you stayed in hotels. Even in a hotel, when you're traveling, there is a way you can make that hotel room, not only now during the COVID-19 pandemic, where, common surfaces, you clean them, you sanitize them, you stay in a clean hotel, but even in a hotel, um, let's say that you can't light a smudge, you can't, or you get that $250 fine, or, so in the past, there was ways, even in a temporary sleeping place, you can make it your camp for the night and have good dreams. So there's a really simple thing, and we're all much like that water vessel made its way from South America to Incisa Valdarno outside Firenze in Italy, right? Outside of Florence, Italy. That water can also help make a place safe to dream, to deal with whatever feelings that might feel like they're going to, overpower your day and prohibit you from going on with what you're meant to do. Our intentions, our path in life, our goals, our dreams, our hopes, they don't stop during this time. They're just made differently than we had envisioned them. So just keeping a simple glass of water by your bedside, not for you, um, at night, and then offering it out in the morning, that can keep wherever you are a good place, a good air place, a good dream place. Because we must all, this is the time also to rest, to take advantage if you can rest. And that's simple, right? Everybody can pour a glass of water. And that's just something I'd like to share with you today. And there's a whole other long story that goes with that. But I might need like the power day to tell that one. But that is something that I was privileged when I was in temporary um, up on the Georgian Bay in Ontario with people from all over Canada. And we were all came together and we lived in a house for 8 weeks in the summer. And we had to come together and help each other make that a safe camp for creativity, for people to uh, have a safe space to be creative, to dream, to even just express themselves, even if they, no matter what they were going to do later on in life, and to create a safety, if you want to say oasis, a safety camp for people. And that's one of the things we all had in common was that reverence for water. And so that's one way. And then I like to tell you, when I was little, this is from my dad. Um, if I do have a belt, but I thought, no, I better not hold it up. I might re-traumatize someone, right? Because that might be part of, why, yeah, working on your wellness today, so I might have cracked the belt on you. And so I didn't want to do that. But what my dad would do is he would fold it in half and he would snap it. go all around the house and snap it. And I thought about that one time when I was traveling, when I had the EBGBs, which is a scientific term, jokes. Um, and when I was in a hotel room, I had been followed in the hallway, and I got into my room and I had them switch me to another room, but still I couldn't feel safe. So what I did is I didn't have a belt, but what I had was my hands. And it was the percussion that my dad was using, because that sound, those percussions change the energy in a room, and they can push things out that you don't want there. So that's what I did. Maybe the hotel staff thought I was just happy that I got a new safer room right near the front desk, but I was going around, I was clapping my room. And so sound also is something that all people share. Sound to change the air in a room. I was privileged to be one of Lee Miracle's writing students in Ontario. And she would often tell stories about when their people were meeting and there was an impasse. They were trying to come to a decision and things would be silent. Somebody would jump up and say, "The air in this room has died." And then somebody else would respond to their call through song, but through sound, through percussion. And so there will be that time when you could check into a hotel. In the future, there will be a pool full of little Indian kids on Friday and Saturday night in the town, and they'll be running up and down the halls and eating at the complimentary breakfast. Those times will come, but they will be different because we've all learned some wisdom about keeping safe in our homes. And for me, that's one of the things I was reminded about during this time, during the pandemic. Keep your home safe, not just with public health messaging or, but keep it safe so that you can continue to dream those dreams, and that you can rest, and that no matter your age, you can keep a hold of those intentions of your path, because there's only one of you, unless you're twin. Even if you're twins can have different paths. There's only one of you. And my wish for all of you is that you come through this experience as your true self. So we have to take care of where we're living, where we're sleeping, where we're eating. And we went from in Montana, the speed limit is 80 miles an hour. So we went from 80 miles an hour to like a construction zone speeding 25, 35, or you're sitting at the flagger's stop. And take advantage of the change of tempo to do those things. And there's a lot of intentions. I was gifted by my teacher, one of my teachers. He helped me to keep, when I was living in a really volatile and dynamic neighborhood, he helped me keep physically safe through different teachings. But those are two that I know, that I felt good about sharing over the internet, with people. It's just water and sound. But I also wanted to tell some other stories about when it's time to leave. Now, I know that the traveling bug, everybody's feet in their moccasins are itchy, and I was talking with some of my family, and we were talking just about, we're still under a stay-at-home order here on the Blackfeet Reservation, but it's supposed to expire. I don't know we don't know. We're not there yet. I'm trying to live today. But I said, why don't, I know this has been, a change and it's been hard on people. But I said, boy, if they can't go to Las Vegas in November, that's when we're going to see the tears flow. So what I would like to say to you now is that also to honor those moments during this time when you have a cry, cry, because you're changing in your safe space to move forward. And I'm not going to tell you that, there's some other benefits that it's kind of like, in the old days before the Pony Express days, and for young people, that's when they delivered mail on a horse. Yeah. But there's been a lot of other changes also in what brought prosperity in the last 30 years since 1988 to Indian country. So in the casinos, many of them have come back to a degree smoke-free. And what does that mean? That means, I worked in that stream of policy development in Indian country. And one time, one of the elders, she's moved on. She told me she was just like she didn't have time for fluff, and so that's just how she was. And so one time she said, the bingo hall, that, and a man was in control of it. I love bingo. She loved bingo. She was lucky, had lucky chair, all the daubers, all the mojo, But she had some health problems and her doctor didn't want to go there. And so she encouraged me with telling me the story, because that was her camp. That was her lucky bingo camp, the bingo hall. She went there, she put out all her intentions, got her chair, had her snack, or and she even had people that would help her keep her little camp there at the bingo hall safe or lucky. And she said basically that she did not want to have to give her life for bingo by having to breathe that air that would make it hard for her. So as the good air comes back to the casinos and the people come back to that good air space, it's going to be different. But I think it will be exciting because I can't wait to see all the bling earrings, the fancy ties. Now, you see a lot of Native men wearing like either the beaded tie or the hand-painted tie or the bolos. People are going to be wearing their finery in those places again. And they need that space to create. We all need that space right now to create those. So I would say, start working on your outfit. I know people have. And maybe your dream is to return to the dance arena, like my ancestors did in 1936, when they could bring out their ceremonial clothing into the dance arena. So what is going to be your outfit that you are going to wear into that first arena? If it's at the conference or if it's at the celebration or, over the winter time, if we're allowed again to have those big gatherings, if cousin COVID lets us out, and so what is going to be your intention on that camp that you're going to create after this? And then I also wanted to share about kind of like an experience of when you go out, like later on this afternoon, I'm going to go out again into out on the land. And I always, that's a camp That's a living space, a dreaming space, a healing space that I'll be in for a couple hours. But I always prepare. I always give water back to the earth, and I always leave something for an acknowledgement of all the teachings, of the reason why I'm out there. Because it didn't get invented in my lifetime. It's farther back into creation than I even can even imagine. So I always, no matter where I'm going, and then I look around on the ground when I'm ready to go home, and I clean up, and I make sure that what I brought leaves with me. And one of the beautiful things that I have seen different people out all over our reservation doing, and it's a call for volunteers to clean up our land. I see them everywhere. They're going and they're cleaning up the land because they're making our camp, our space, our living space right now when we're at stay at home. They're devoting it to cleaning up. And there were people that in the elder housing where my mom lives, there were teams of people cleaning up around the elders. And then when the workers could come back safely, then there were teams of workers out there keeping that elder camp safe by making it beautiful. Because that's also what our people are about. They're about beauty. We're all beautiful. And I'd like to remember, some of you know him, Dr. Clayton Small, Northern Cheyenne. He always says, you're handsome and you're beautiful. And he always, he encourages people, to pay it forward in a non-snagging way. So I want to say that to all of you now watching. You're handsome and you're beautiful. And really, that's who we are as Indigenous people. We lived among the beauty of creation through agreements, through establishing relationships. And our camps were announcements that our way of life was to uphold those agreements, and not the punitive or, kind of like, because this English word has it can mean different things to people. But we were responsible for those agreements. And as a living generation, we're responsible to carrying forth those original agreements that when our first ancestor walked on this planet, they began to establish with all of creation and the Creator. And that's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful to live this way of life. And sometimes when I see young people, or there's been, people posting the new members of the families, all the babies. And the first thing I think is, that baby's beautiful. And I don't even, until I read the comments, I don't even know what its gender is, right? Because all babies, you really can't tell. So they're beautiful. It doesn't matter their gender, because in our way of life, a life is beautiful. And it goes back to that sacred equality, that we're all equal because we're all sacred. And so as we're moving through this time, I think that it's an opportunity, and I take it as an opportunity to have those moments of pause, and where I can reflect, and I can be in my safe space. One of my close friends that, through her family relationships, it's necessary that she's moved around a lot off the reservation and to different people. And she asked me, are you accepting visitors yet? And I said, this is my safe, I didn't say no, I said, this is my safe space, because here I also have the responsibility to my mother, to being there to help her in this time. So it means you know, I didn't get this. If gambling is in the DNA, I didn't get this gene from my relatives that are great gamblers. I don't know what happened, but I'm not a gambler at this time under COVID-19 with, you know, I'm not going to increase my odds because I have responsibilities to myself to uphold the relationships, the teachings that I carry, to really support people the way I can. And sometimes that's not in person. Sometimes that's sending a message, you know, through the social media to people. Really ones, you know, I mean, I'm not really that close to them, or didn't know them that well. And I don't have to know them well, you know. And then I have an aunt who, uh, she's a good aunt. So if there's a job description for aunts, and I know there's a project in Oklahoma that started aunties.org, you know. And then when I see some of my cousins that are just like, you know, they are just like, that's res auntie royalty. When they come into a room, everyone kind of sits up a little bit, kind of like, you know, maybe had, you know, maybe showing too much of this, and they kind of, and that's the effect of a royal res auntie. But one of the job qualifications I think of that auntie is to observe and love everybody. Because often they don't even have to say, you know, oh, button your shirt, or oh, you didn't wash your face, or your hair, or, you know, they don't have to say that. Quit looking at your cousin, you know. They don't have to say that, because one of their qualifications is they loved everybody. Because that really is one of the mechanisms, or if you want to say, that is a practice of every indigenous culture. Doesn't mean you don't set boundaries on bad behavior. Doesn't mean that you leave yourself off the priority list. Doesn't mean that at all. So today, if I was your auntie, you know, my wish for you today is that you are on your priority list. Your care, your preparation of where you're going to lay your head tonight, that it is so you will have that good space to really replenish and receive, to be open and to sleep safely. For many generations, our sleep has been disrupted by the experience that we've went through. And we have an opportunity, if we are not currently in a safe space, then to begin to put that intention out there that that's where you're going to end up. No date on it. You're going to end up in a safe space. And I'm mindful of all the children right now that school was their safe space. But it's time, like I said, for us to come out of the buildings, out of the houses, and recapture that safe space that our people lived in. Because they're in camps, there was control, or control in a good way. You know, I seen a story about Indigenous peacekeepers up in Canada, where they haven't had to shoot anybody since they were in existence, because that's through relationship to keep safety. So that's why, you know, I thought, like, I was sent these, right? I love when I get free clothes. You know, a lot of my wardrobe is from like conferences. And some of my clothes, if I hold up my sweatshirt, you could see through it. But that's also, I would say that as we move forward, that is one of my wishes. So I want to put it out on cyberspace, that one of the outcomes of the pandemic as we start to recapture safety. And as you keep your home safe, your circle, your camp safe, and your cousins keeping their camp safe, and your other cousins keeping their camp safe, and then your friend from school is keeping their camp safe, your brother from another mother is keeping his camp safe. All those fires of safety, all that intention, it's going to come back together. And because we're here for a reason. The ancestors ensured we lived through those other rough times. And our one thing we share, just like our reverence for water everywhere, and good air, right? And for sound and percussion. All you have to do is watch indigenous dancing. You know, that is the that is the callback to the universe's tempo, because that's where we come from. We come from those relationships to the galactic, if you want to say, harmony of creation. That's what's in our dancing. So as we're all saying those, creating those safeties in our lives, in where we sleep, where we eat, where we're living right now, in our car. You know, sometimes I just seen one Indian vehicle that they had a, like, you name something that's popular right now, it was on their car. Their car was like, woo, it was like one of those big old blinging powwow earrings, right? You know, like that car was so indigenized, you know, that should have been the name of the model of that car, Indigenized Res Ride, because they had everything on there. Even sunshades had indigenous design on it, and seat covers. I mean, so I was just like, that's who we are also. So whether it's your vehicle that you prepare for safety, and a lot of people do, you know, they that's our right now, our pony, you know, for many people. And wherever you are going to be existing right now, you're keeping it safe. And it's not just in response to COVID. That was always public, if you want to use that English term, public safety. That was our norm. So as all these safety camps are popping up in our world, the more safety camps, and when they finally outnumber all the challenges we need to address, it will return where any child, any woman, any man can walk at any time in our communities, any time of day, and be safe. And that's really like the intention of everything you do now. You're contributing to that intention, to that call out, to all our relationships in the universe, that call out that we want safe, healthy, well, old people. We want all those babies born during this time to live a long time in safety. That's our norm. That's our shared value. And so as we move through this time together, and really my wish for you, like my dream, my hope, you know, I talk out loud sometimes when you know, I'm the only human present, but I know the ancestors are there. I know the spiritual people are there. I know the creator's there. And I know all of the beings, they hear that intention. So often I say that, you know, I pray for wellness. I practice it to my best ability every day, you know, and really today I wanted to share that with you. And if nobody's told you today, I have 3 things to tell you. You're handsome, you're beautiful, and I love you. So with that, I really thank you for being here during the Native Wellness Power Hour, and take care, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day and a good sleep. Bye.